Star Wars has always been a galaxy of lightsabers, destiny, and myth. But then came Andor, a show that broke the mold, grounded, gritty, deeply human. And while it may not have pulled in Grogu-level merchandise sales, it did something arguably more important. It showed us a side of Star Wars we rarely see. One where hope has to be earned, where freedom is fragile, and where the Force isn't what moves the galaxy, people do. In this video, we'll break down 4 key lessons from Andor that the rest of Star Wars could really benefit from, so make sure you stick around until the end. One of Andor's biggest triumphs is how it develops its characters, not because they are tied to legacy names, but because they are real, flawed, and driven by grounded motivations. Cassian Andor is not a Jedi. He's not a chosen one. He's a man trying to survive, and eventually, finding something worth fighting for. Compare that to some of the sequel trilogy characters, where motivations can feel rushed or unclear. In Andor, people don't fight because they're told to. They fight because the system leaves them no choice. Mon Mothma's political struggles, Luthen's moral compromises, Dedra's terrifying position in the Empire, Cyril's obsession with order. Every arc feels lived in. These aren't mythological figures, they are reflections of real people. So what are the lessons we can learn? Lesson 1. Future Star Wars stories need to slow down, breathe, and let characters evolve without depending on bloodlines or nostalgia. Prequels introduced complex political ideas, trade routes, senates, the fall of democracy, but often left audiences confused. Andor fixes that. Through Mon Mothma, we see how the rebellion requires sacrifice, even at the dinner table. Through the ISB, we see how fascism operates, not with cartoonish evil, but with cold precision. The writing trusts the audience to understand systems and nuance, rather than explaining everything with exposition dumps. Lesson 2. Star Wars can be political without being preachy. Andor shows that intelligent writing doesn't alienate viewers, it pulls them deeper. Andor looks and feels like prestige television. Practical sets, grounded environments, atmospheric tension. It's not reliant on volume screens or fan service cameos. Instead, it builds an immersive, dirty galaxy that feels more real than any other modern Star Wars show. Even the music, minimalistic and sometimes eerie, is a far cry from sweeping John Williams orchestras, and yet it works. The camera isn't constantly spinning, the editing doesn't rush, scenes are allowed to settle. Lesson 3. Not every Star Wars project needs to feel like a theme park ride. There's room for introspection, texture, and slow-burning tension. Tony Gilroy famously said he didn't care about Star Wars, and ironically, that's probably why it worked. He approached it as a writer first, not a fan. He didn't treat Star Wars like the sacred lore, he treated it like a sandbox to tell meaningful stories that respect it. There are no prophecies here, no chosen ones, just people doing what they think is right, or what they must do to survive. And in doing so, Andor ends up telling one of the most mature, complex, and powerful stories in the entire franchise. Lesson 4. Treat Star Wars not as something to preserve, but as something to evolve. We're entering a new era of Star Wars, with movies on the horizon, shows like The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew exploring fresh ground, and Filoni's connected Mandoverse leading towards a culmination. But if there's one show that future creators should study, it's Andor. Not to copy its tone, but to understand what made it resonate. Respect your audience, build your characters, trust the story. Andor might not have sold Baby Yoda toys, but it gave us something far rarer. A Star Wars story that feels like it could change you. If you loved Andor, or even if you didn't, one thing's for sure, it set a new bar. And as fans, we should be asking for more. Not just more content, but more meaning. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, then check out our recent video, where we discuss why Attack of the Clones is better than you remember. And hit subscribe, so you never miss another Star Wars discussion.